Welcome to Thinking Green. I'm Rana, and tonight's show is sort of a, it's a continuation of an annual show. It's going to be about Fiddleheads Food Co-op, and I think the first time we had a show about Fiddleheads Food Co-op was in the fall of 2007, when it was just getting started. And time flies, and it will be celebrating its 12th birthday next week. So my guests tonight are Lexa Juhre, who is the general manager of Fiddleheads, and Danny Spurr, who is the president of the board of directors.
Thanks
so welcome both of you. And I guess, we have a whole lot of slides, and I think we'll kind of go through the slides but talk at the same time. And so the first thing is the slide of like what Fiddleheads looks like. And yeah, it's in the corner of Broad and Huntington, and it's been there, I think, for like it's the 12th birthday, but it's been there for about 13 or 14 years.
Right, they acquired the space a little bit before they actually opened,
So this is about the birthday. So I guess people can look at the slide, but I guess I'd rather just ask you two, what are people have in store for them when they come to Fiddleheads for the birthday?
Sure. Well, technically our birthday is the 2nd of February, Groundhog Day. But Willimantic is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and they requested that we not celebrate on the same weekend. So they are celebrating this weekend and the coming weekend, and we are celebrating on the 15th and 16th of February.
The Willimantic Food Co-op.
Sorry, Willimantic Food Co-op. I shouldn't be so casual about that. Yes, they are our big sister co-op, the only other retail co-op living in Connecticut right now.
Really? There aren't any?
There are not. We can talk about more ones that want to emerge. But no, currently it's just Willimantic Food Co-op and Fiddleheads in New London in all of the state of Connecticut. And but so every year we throw a big party, and we do 10% off for everyone in the store, both Saturday and Sunday, all day. So everything is 10% off. But it's an opportunity on Saturday from 10 to 4. We have sampling. We have vendors that come in and bring in their wares and talk about their products. So you get to like meet the farmer or meet the producer. We're offering a number of samples of things that we made in our own kitchen. We have a cake that comes at 1. And let's see, the cake
and
is...
if I remember from past years, there's more than one cake.
It's actually one big cake, but it comes sometimes out in multiple pieces. And you take the cake, bakes us a lovely cake every year, which is gluten-free but does have dairy. And that's at 1 o'clock. And the board, we're going to have members of the board at a table to talk to people. One of the things that's happening is that we're calling for candidates for the board of directors, and the election will probably be in May. But having a meet and greet, and some of the candidates who've already declared may come and also be available for people to talk to. And it's a great opportunity for owners to talk to each other and get to know each other. And I don't know if you want to, I'm stealing your thunder.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll talk to Danny now about the board of directors. I see a slide that you're front and center in, a call for candidates to run for the board. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you became involved in being on the Fiddleheads board.
Well, Well, I guess I became involved initially, like most co-op owners become involved, becoming a member owner of the co-op, and shopping at the co-op, not really knowing what a co-op is exactly, having some idea, but just being a co-op owner. My wife worked on staff for a while at the co-op, so I got a little bit more acquainted with it. And I think, like a lot of directors, sort of like someone asked, and or you feel the call, you know.
Yeah.
So I felt like they could use someone to help on the board, and ran for the board, and didn't know what I was getting into, or.
How long ago was that?
4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And now I'm currently board president, and know a lot more about co-ops and how they work. It's a good way to learn about co-ops.
I bet it is. So the end of the month is the deadline for people to put in their name to be board members. So what would you tell a prospective, board member what they're in for, or what they get out of it if they decide to try to be on the board?
You get your mind opened to the greater co-op world. We do a lot of training and going to conferences and secondary co-op meetings. We can network with other co-ops, sort of open your eyes to these things. And sort of the month-to-month board meetings, we do a lot. We monitor our general manager, because we are elected by our owners, who are just shoppers at the co-op, to represent them. So we hired Lexa. We make sure she's doing a good job, which she generally does a pretty good job.
Thank you.
And
You'll be seen on the same show with her, which is a good sign.
Yes, we have a good working
we can sit in the
rapport.
same room with each other. And just setting the strategic vision for the co-op, figuring out why we exist.
And it's interesting that you talk about, the co-op model of doing business. At last night's city council meeting, during the mayor's report, Mayor Passero did a shout out to Fiddleheads. He was giving a list of different kinds of events, like today was Transit Equity Day, and people could ride the seat bus for free. But he also mentioned Fiddleheads, and he described it as the only grocery store in downtown New London. So, I mean, Fiddleheads isn't really just a grocery store, but it does fill that function in downtown New London as a place you can walk to, that you can get a wide range of groceries.
It does.
And I think when it comes down to it, it is just a grocery store in a way.
Yeah, there's meta things layered on top of that. I like working in co-ops more than I would like working in a commercial grocery store, because it's set up to put community and people at the center. It's designed to institutionalize or make an institution that perpetuates things the community needs that are maybe layers on top of a grocery store, but are usually intersecting with food and food politics, education. There are 7 cooperative principles, and so education and concern for community are among them. And so it's a place to do things that you think matter while also engaged in a commercial enterprise that, and for me, makes a living.
It's interesting to me, I go shopping in different places around New London, and I shop at Fiddleheads, and there is a little bit of a different sense that, although you don't have to be a member, of course, to shop there, for those of us who are members, and maybe especially longtime members, you walk in and you do kind of feel like you own the place. I mean, not that you can walk off with stuff for free, but if you want to look at someone, for someone in the back, or if you want to chat with a staff person about something, you really do feel like it's kind of belongs to you in a way.
It does, yeah. I think that it's it's interesting because we have over 3,500 member households now. And about 2,200 of those actively shopped in 2019. So 61% of the people on the books are actively using this store. And so it's disproportionate not every household of those 2,200 has that same relationship, but I think that particularly for people who started out as member workers and really were involved in founding and perpetuating the co-op when it really couldn't have existed on a purely commercial basis, that sense is very strong. And then I think that that's created opportunities for other organizations and things to have been involved in Fiddleheads and develop stronger bonds. And then even people who've joined recently, because we are focused on being responsive to customers, not just as how well, like not just what hours we should be open, things like that, but like what products we should carry, how can we greet you so that you actively feel welcomed and not just feel like we're automatons. Those are things that matter to us. And I think that it comes across to people even when they haven't had the history with the co-op. So I do think that we have, hopefully we have a different character than your average grocery store.
Well, now we're going to sort of start with a little bit of a store tour, starting with the welcome board.
Yeah, I put this in because we just put up the welcome center. It's this little corner, but it has the ownership brochure, the application to become an owner, which we recently had translated into Spanish, which was great. We have been trying to work on having more bilingual staff. Most of us are not really fluent, so we are working on being more accessible to people whose native language is in English. And we're also just trying to incorporate branding from, this is the Everyone Welcome is a symbol that is, or a tagline from the National Cooperative Grocers, of which we're a member. And basically really trying to emphasize the fact that we are here to serve everyone in the community. And the plant on the right is a representation of the ends policies of the co-op. And the first of those is to be, or the broad end is to be, so we exist so that Fiddleheads is a robust and healthy community, and so an inclusive community. So it's just all these tangible reminders of like what our values are, and a reminder to us on how we model that.
So let's really continue with the tour. So this is, and I have to tell you, I'm really grateful that you provided slides, because in some past years I've brought a camera and walked the aisles, and things do change a little bit from year to year. So you can't just reuse the old stuff.
Well, we had enough physical changes in the store that I thought it was worthwhile doing, and it was a chance for us to show off for people who haven't been in the store for a while, really how much things have grown since the last time we were on, which I think was almost 2 years ago. And so this is, if you're walking into the store pretty much after we close, the cafe is all bundled up for sweeping, so it's not how it might be in the morning when people are sitting in the cafe. But so you've got the two registers that you can see. There's a third one beyond it, and over to the right where there's like a wooden surface floor, that's our cafe area, and there's seating for maybe 10 to 12 people comfortably. We also do some classes and workshops in that space sometimes, which I'll talk about, which will come up naturally.
And it's actually very rare to see it empty.
It is. This is clearly when we're closed, there are no staff. It was an easy time to take a picture.
Because there's Wi-Fi there. You see people there all the time. It's I won't say it's the only common meeting place in our city, but it's one of the handful of places that people who want to get together for a half-hour get together will sit down.
Yeah, and I do think the store itself is sort of a third place kind of a space where people run into each other and talk about things. Oh yeah, I'll bring the kids over at 4. Like there's an active community involvement that shows up in the cafe, but also in the store in general.
And I have to warn people that based on my own experience, it is not a good store to run in and get an item and run out of.
Sometimes there's too much community in the store.
There's lots of community, and it's really great. If you're in a hurry, though, it's not going to work, because because you will inevitably meet staff people whom you know. Sometimes the staff people increasingly are like the children of friends of mine, as we see the like 17 year olds and 18-year-olds who are now working at the co-op. And yeah, and sometimes I catch up with, actually, I used to have live across the street from someone whom I hardly ever saw on my block, but always ran into at Fiddleheads.
Well, I mean, it is a pretty small format store. So in the sense of running in to get something versus running into like a Target, it's in and out. But you're right that you have to set your own boundaries around, I need to go right now, I have to be somewhere. And I'm not all that great at that myself, so I empathize.
Yes,
And there's always Fiddleheads Express, right?
There is. You can, on our website, there is a service where you can order online. And you have to register, but you don't have to be an owner to use the service. And there's a $7 charge to pick your groceries, but we could have it ready for you, and then you could come by and just pick it up.
yeah.
So that is true. You could do
I
that.
guess if you're really in a hurry, that is worthwhile.
I think that the picking up in the store is less utilized than we get customers who are on Fisher's Island who ask for deliveries to the ferry, and so that's the only delivery service we're offering currently. But we are considering opening it up to using like a courier service to do service in like Waterford, Groton, and London. But we haven't quite figured out a pricing structure or what the demand is there. But for the picking up in the store, it's convenient for somebody who's just like going through medical things or has a sleeping child in the car that doesn't, want to wake up the child to come in. So there are people who are using it.
Now, okay, so the first part of the store you really go to, even as shoppers, is the produce section. And there are actually a lot of photos of the produce section because there's a lot of produce.
There is, and I kind of tried to, for one thing, it's hard to get good photos in our store, partly because there's rarely an unencumbered view of anything. It's tightly packed, so you can move through it, but it's hard to get a distance view of a lot of things. So some of the shots you're going to see are a little wonky, and I'm not a professional. But this is our produce rack, the wet rack, the greens rack. It has a misting system to keep everything fresh. In the wintertime, you'll see, I think all the signs in that case right now are white, which means they're USDA organic and sourced from really anywhere on the globe. Could be Mexico, California, Peru, could be anywhere. And in the summertime, a lot of those signs are green, which means that they're from local farmers, and we have like the most gorgeous, beautiful kales and chard in the summertime. And they're pretty good in the winter, but it's not the local focus at this season.
Oh, there are rutabagas and.
Well, that's the next slide.
I'm getting ahead.
Okay, here's the next one.
This is the roots cooler and herbs along the top. And if actually you want to, we've seen the roots cooler. You want to go to the next slide, we'll show you sorry, I'm going to change. No, that's fine. It's fine. You can go to there. I'll come back to the roots cooler.
Okay.
This is an avocado display that we have out right now. Well, actually, I think it may be over now that Super Bowl's over. But 2 days ago when I took this picture, it was up. And avocados, we source them from Equal Exchange, which is a worker co-op that's based outside of Boston, but partners with cooperatives in Mexico, Peru, and I think somewhere else in South or Central America to source avocados, bananas, chocolate, coffee, and it's a fair trade organization, and it's dedicated to helping small farmers in third world or developing countries have better access to a fair market value for their product. In the case of avocados, it's recently become known to us that in Mexico, truckloads of avocados are being stolen and resold by cartels, and apparently that's a dangerous situation for some of the small farmers. So having a reliable channel to do business with in the United States is a boon for them. And so we are participating they have a campaign to show like how the impact of your avocado purchases. And so in 2019, we sold over 22,000 avocados, which means $13,000 from Fiddleheads purchases went to small farmers in Mexico. And so we look to growing that number every year. And they're also the most delicious avocados, in my opinion.
It's amazing to think that avocados, have grown in popularity to such an extent that like a black market is a
They're
thing.
viable, yeah. It's the plant-based diet has really, California finally caught up to the rest of the United States, in the last year or two, and I think that it has made an impact enough on the economy that it's a really lucrative crop, and like every place now has avocado crema or something, avocado on your burger, and so I think that what used to be something that you would always find in co-ops, and most grocery stores, big, large format grocery stores, but I don't think they were as mainstream as they are now. And I think that once something has demand, then there's money that follows.
Now, do you want to go back to the
No, you
roots
can
or
go
ahead
to the next
the
one. I'll just talk about
bananas?
This is also equal exchange. And again, this is like showcasing the fact that these these bananas are grown by farmers who are also in co-ops. So it's like we're trying to highlight the connections between co-ops that we have and the way that, because promoting the cooperative model is part of one of the principles of being a co-op. And so trying to show people that yes, unlike some grocery stores where the price on bananas fluctuates every day, we keep it pretty constant, but the reason we're doing that is we're ensuring that the farmers who grow them year after year have a means of production, have a means to continue the next year, and pay them a fair wage. So.
Now
Oh, I was just going to say, it's a way of connecting communities too, because we have that co-op principle, because we have this co-op in our community helping, I don't know, sort of a community anchor. And by supporting co-ops across the world, we're helping local co-ops thrive in their communities too.
And it seems like it's important here, but it's probably more important there because the exploitation of workers and farmers is probably a more dire problem in some other parts of the world.
Yeah, when you have drug cartels stealing your avocados.
Oh my God. Are there other, I see that Equal Exchange does a lot. Are there other worldwide organizations that work on like empowering co-ops?
Yeah, well there are other ones that, like, so Frontier is a co-op that we sell a lot of their bulk herbs and spices, and they do buy some of their herbs and spices from cooperative farmers. There's also some social enterprise models that aren't technically co-ops, like Alafia is a line of body care and I think it's, various body care products that we carry. And while they're not formally a co-op, they source from farmers who are in agriculture cooperatives and are an economic structure that's similar to a co-op, but it's not actually, it doesn't take that form precisely. So there's social benefit corporations that are using the values of co-ops to promote trade across countries, and then there are actual co-ops that are secondary co-ops that are sourcing.
Well, benefit corporations are starting to get legs, and in today's climate, that the corporate model in which your real responsibility is to make a profit for the shareholders, without really any responsibility other than that, it's actually wrecking a lot of our commerce, and
Right.
I think, and our communities. So I think more and more, even for-profit enterprises are looking to alternatives.
Well, I think that some of that is to look good on annual reports, and some of that is because there's an actual benefit. But one of the things that I think is really important about cooperatives is that, capitalism has some things going for it. It is very successful in certain ways. But I think that the real root of the problem is that it enriches a very few at the expense of everyone else. And cooperatives are a way to collectively own the organization. So you do have input both formally, like through the board, and informally to walk in and say, hey, I want to ask you why you're carrying this product. I've heard some uncomfortable things and I'd like to know more. And we'll engage you in a dialogue about that. That you have some control over the revenue that you're supporting, and that you're supporting an organization that is trying to centralize the community it serves, and not just, we don't have any shareholders we're returning value to. We could eventually, when we become more profitable, have patronage refunds that go to the owners. But so your patronage would be based on how much you use the store. It's not based on the fact that you've invested more money than other people. Everybody has an equal investment. It's $175 for a household to buy a share. They can do that over time, over $25 a year, or as quickly as you want to in that period of time. And if they decide that they're no longer getting value out of the co-op, they can ask for a refund of their equity. And the board has always
Yeah, it's
acquiesced.
different than like a membership, like at Costco or someplace you pay an annual membership fee, but this is actually equity that you're putting in the co-op that you can get back if you move to Phoenix, you know.
Do you find the people who move out of town really necessarily want their money back?
Well, a few
Or
of them.
do some of them just feel like it was a great investment that they feel good about?
I think a lot of people don't think about it if they leave. I think a lot of people, certainly if people pass away, I don't think that it's a first line of, oh, I should go redeem $175 worth of equity. So the people who started in the beginning are, I think, as I said, there are about 2,200 out of 3,600 households that are actively shopping. So that gives me 1,400 households that didn't come through the doors. I think some of those people feel very good about leaving that investment in the store, just want to see it succeed, and others probably haven't really thought about it very much.
Well, we'll go back to produce in a minute, but I wanted to ask you, since you've been talking about co-ops, there are member-owned co-ops, which Fiddleheads is, and worker-owned co-ops or farmer-owned co-ops, which are some of the places you do commerce with. How do they work together? What are the differences? How can they support each other?
Well, they're different in the sense of who owns them. The equity structures of a worker co-op, it can be that a few people form a co-op as a small group to do like a trade together or sell services and then recruit other people who are in the trade to become part of the cooperative. There are some stores that are retail co-ops that have decided to hybridize and issue shares to staff so that it's a method of, it's sort of like a retirement plan that you've built equity and then your equity grows the longer you work there, and so then when you retire you get that equity out of the business. That I know Weaver Street in North Carolina is a hybrid co-op, and I believe there's at least one more.
Is there one in Seattle maybe, or on the West Coast?
But there's a lot of different sort of flavors of even consumer co-ops. We do households. Some co-ops make it be that every adult has to buy a share for themselves. So there's a lot of different ways. And then I guess in terms of sourcing, I think it's, or working together in general, I think trying to just raise awareness around the cooperative model and how it's different. I would say that every co-op has the 7 co-op principles in common, so they're all working towards like sort of lofty goals of education and community, democracy, autonomy. So we have a certain thread that runs through them all.
Well, I am going to go back to the root vegetables.
Well, go forward because I'll bring you back to root vegetables.
Oh, you will?
Excellent. Yes.
Okay.
So, these are root vegetables
okay.
too, but we can continue to the next slide.
Okay, we'll continue.
Sorry, I'm rolling you along here. But this is our potatoes. We have 4 varieties of sweet potatoes. They're colorful, so I put them in. But if you go to the next slide, which okay, one more.
No.
This is citrus. Here we are.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. So this is
here's the
close-up
rutabagas.
of
Yeah.
the roots cooler. And these are vegetables that are currently, in our case, that are supplied from Provider Farm in Salem. And so I think the sign says it's like 14.6 miles from the co-op. So we've got the daikon, purple daikon or watermelon radish, kohlrabi, and I can't see what the other one is right now. But so
Purple
these are
daikon, watermelon, kohlrabi, and rutabaga.
and rutabaga. So these are, grown here in Connecticut, and so it's not just a summer season that we have local produce. It does fluctuate which crops are available to us, obviously. But I wanted to put this in because the green sign means that it's a source from a local co-op, which for
Local
the store,
business.
local business.
Yeah.
The store definition is 100 miles of the co-op is local. For produce, it's more like 40 miles in reality. If we get something that's 89 miles away, we'll still put a green sign on it. But by far, most of them are within, less than an hour's drive of the co-op. And so, and the other thing is in the right lower corner, there's a logo, which is provider's logo. So it tells you which farm the actual produce is coming from as well. Did you have other questions about the root cooler?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, there are some things in the root cooler. I saw turmeric sort of off to the side.
We've got turmeric
which is
root.
probably not local, but
No, that is, I believe, from either Indonesia or Hawaii. I think Hawaii is ginger and Indonesia is turmeric. So we do source globally, that is true. There are mushrooms in that cooler, which obviously are not roots, but sometimes those have been from Rhode Island, and sometimes those are from anywhere across the globe. But
and I see that these winter squash are a lot of them green labeled.
yes, these are all from Himmelstein Homestead Farm in Lebanon, and he does a great job, and they're delicious. The strappetti is the ones on sale up on top and to the right, and those are a hybrid of spaghetti squash and delicata, so they look like a delicata. They're not as the skin is not as tender as a delicata, so it's really more like a spaghetti squash and how it behaves. But you can shred it and serve it with sauce like a pasta, or you can just put it in salads, and it's great. And so we get a lot of pumpkins and squash from Himmelstein.
Well, and I am going to go back a little and look. Oh, the citrus.
Not local.
It's not local, right, which I don't expect, but I just wanted to make the point that there are citrus you can find at Fiddleheads that you're not likely to find in your other grocery stores. And I think that's true not just of citrus. Like, we mentioned turmeric, and I don't know if most large supermarkets have that fresh.
I mean, I would say that the co-op, while it is not an inscribed value, is deeply committed to biodiversity and to heirloom vegetables and fruits. So when we have the opportunity to get pixie tangerines or heirloom navels or Murcott tangerines or any of the other tangerines that don't travel so well and so aren't seen on the East Coast so much, if we can get them and they're in good shape, we'll buy them. And so we do pride ourselves on having we have little display at the register sometimes to be able to differentiate between them for ourselves so that we know what we're ringing up. But yes, there's oftentimes in the winter where you have varieties that you won't get very often and that you only come for a limited time.
And I'll tell people
I've made marmalade with the
the
these special
sour oranges,
oranges
yes.
they use for marmalade that they have at the co-op.
The
sometimes.
Seville sour oranges,
Yeah.
yes.
wow.
And they're all organic. That's the other thing.
And you can really impress your guests, probably with the Seville marmalade, but also I know we got the Caracara oranges that are really pink when you cut them open and really delicious. And people looked at them and said, what is this? But no, and things like blood oranges, which was first introduced many years ago when I lived in Israel, but you really don't see it very much at all here, but it's very often available at Fiddleheads.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that in general, the commercial supermarkets aim toward a mainstream audience that is not, you can't turn as many blood oranges as you can navels. And so people, and so you just, we get to be the niche that has the things that the others don't. Buddha's hand is another odd-looking citrus that we.
I don't think I've ever tried that.
I have, and it's more. I feel like it's more attractive as a visual element than it is as a. It tastes fine, but it's not extraordinary, in my opinion. But it's very cool looking, and it's one of the things that gets people's attention, definitely.
Yeah,
And I think that speaks too to the co-op is not just about the bottom line. Like a lot of local produce, the margin is actually not very good. So that's why a big supermarket doesn't fill their shelves with local produce. But that's one of our ends, one of our reasons for existing is supporting the local economy, local farmers.
Yeah, and I imagine introducing new varieties, some of them, not citrus, but some of them are things that could ultimately be grown locally and would just, add some more variety to our local food. And I do have just the quick slide of the root part. Well, I see the cabbages and beets and carrots and spices along the top, and I think the various kinds of mushrooms are in there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Second shelf.
yeah. So just, and there is, well, other stuff to the right of that, but.
Yeah, there's some like composting bins and household gadgets like peelers and things that go more or less with produce there, tucked away.
To peel your root vegetables with.
Yeah.
That's right. Peel that rutabaga.
The tools. So there's a whole next section is wellness, which is like really chock-a-blocka with stuff. Do you want to
Is.
talk about the wellness
Sure.
area?
Well, we reset the center store in September and October, and wellness it's crammed with things. They're very small things, very tightly packed next to each other, but it's principally so supplements, which includes vitamins, minerals, tinctures. There's protein powders, a number of different things, and then some of that we'll see in future slides. And then there's body care also, so oral care, skin care, hair care, deodorants, all those kinds of things. And I think mostly we differentiate on these for having products with high quality ingredients and that are clean, no parabens, no testing on animals. So we aim for high quality products that don't have additives and that we feel good about. And there's a lot oriented towards. So this is an odd slide. This is actually the back wall of the wellness department split in two. So the left side, you've got vitamins and minerals and tinctures, and the right side, you have cold and flu and immune support and oral care below that, and then further down is hair care to the right. And so that is actually one flat wall that I could not take a picture of as a flat wall.
It's like one of those maps
It's a
of the
funhouse
world that's
mirror
broken into.
of the wellness wall.
Oh yeah,
And then, so this next slide, I'm sorry that the right part is not very good, but the left side is mostly skin care and not essential oils, carrier oils for the essential oils. Essential oils were on that pack wall we just saw. And then to the right is the probiotic cooler, which has probiotic supplements and flax oils. And then it also has a few odds and ends from bulk departments, so like wheat germ and
Yeast.
yeah, hemp
Yeasts
hearts
are-
are in there too.
hemp hearts. Yeah, there's a few things that need to be refrigerated that bulk hasn't earned its own refrigerator for, so those are tucked away in there. And
How about
trying
the
to think.
soap, though,
Next.
like local soap?
Okay.
next up,
They are
local
here.
soap on the left. There's a whole display. And then on the right is not so local soap, but Dr. Bronner's is a very popular line of Castile soap, and we have it in bulk so that people who are trying to reduce their use of plastics can refill their containers. And then we also sell it in many different plastic containers below it. And then I think on the right, some of the line of Alafia that I was mentioning before, that's like a social benefit organization that works with co-ops. They have really great products and some other, like we're pretty proud of all of our lines. But yeah, that's a snapshot of some of the body care things that we carry.
And it is nice to see some of the things that are not in their own packaging that you can get bulk.
Yes, and we do, I didn't take a slide of it, we do also have a flip side of that local, one of those center kiosk things, has things in bulk that you can use to make your own cosmetics. It has, we sell glycerin cabinets, glycerin capsules that you can fill yourself, so you can make, put herbs
wow.
and tinctures together. You can make salves, and so there's like beeswax, little pastilles. There's a lot of little fun things that you can't find in places other than co-ops very often.
And some of the workshops that are held at the
We
co-op.
try to highlight some of those,
Right.
yes.
Now, are there any of those coming up?
There are. We have an herbs for sexual vitality coming up, I think on this weekend, maybe the 9th. And then in March, there's another workshop that escapes me, but I'll try and remember before we're over.
Okay. I know they come up fairly frequently.
Well, we
different
just
kinds
refreshed
of
our
wellness-related
website,
things.
which is on the bottom of pretty much every slide here, and that has all of our upcoming classes in a calendar, and so we'll keep that updated, and people can go there or to Facebook where we post our
Yeah.
events as well. So this is part of the wellness department that's not in the wellness area. It's actually up front by Register 2. CBD has been a really booming component of the wellness department. And we pride ourselves on sourcing from reputable companies that have also, like I said, good ingredients. And that's a mobile that our marketing manager made to hang over the cabinet on the left. So it's just a little shout out to the CBD corner.
And let's see. Oh, okay, we've moved on to general merchandise.
Yes, this is across the aisle from wellness, is a whole run of, we call it general merchandise, which is not very descriptive, I think, for the public, but basically it's candles, cards, gifts, clothing, household stuff. So that's like kitchen implements, tea accessories, bags, reusable containers, things that help promote, again, like not reuse instead of lots of small plastic things. Salt lamps, we sell a lot of salt lamps, and so that we have one person who really curates that collection, but it rotates like seasonally, and so we try to keep it fresh with new things, so it's like a fun little nook to shop in.
I was going to observe that thinking about Fiddleheads over the years, this seems like the department that has changed a lot, both seasonally, but also has shifted over the years as, I don't know, you figure out what people need and want and, what sells. Because it used to be in different places, a lot of different stuff, and it's always full of surprises.
It's moved around the store, even in the 4 years that I've been there, quite a bit. And I think part of that is like some of the things really lend themselves to being cross-merchandised, to put adjacent to products. So if you have something that you're going to stir natural peanut butter with, having it near natural peanut butter is good. But having it also in a place where all the kitchen gadgets are is helpful. And so when we did the reset, we decided that we were going to give it some floor space that was visible and uniform and together.
Okay, and now, yes, the grocery. So
a natural affinity, right? No, it's just that's where the perimeter of refrigerated cases begins here. So
it does, and it's just past.
Right. This is if you're walking through the store, the general merch was on your right, and this case with plant-based refrigerated, actually 2 cases are
like
on
a
your
virtual
left.
tour.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
And so this is the first door is like fermented foods and like miso and tofu and some other sauerkrauts. And then there's plant-based meat analogs and plant-based cheeses. And then there's a host of other dairy products that are all plant-based. So oat milks and almond yogurts and sour creams. And
If you've never had the bridge tofu, you gotta
it's
go
true.
down
It's the
in
best
the
tofu
bottom
from
on the
Middletown,
left.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
Local product, shout out. And but the plant-based diet has really grown so much, and I think even people who aren't strictly avoiding meat are increasingly trying things like nut cheeses that they wouldn't have tried a year or 2 ago. So I think about maybe a year ago we actually moved all of the non-dairy dairy out of the milk case so that it would all have its own home, and so this whole wall is.
And I had been going to ask you if this is something that's grown a lot, because it seems as though more and more people are eating more plant-based, whether it's exclusive or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, so many more products have also come to market. So, you couldn't buy cashew milk 5-10 years ago. You could make it yourself, and we sell the nut bag. We'll help you make it. But it wasn't something that was commercially produced. And so, like so many other things in the natural products industry, as the demand has started to show up, investor capitalists have come in and funded businesses that are emerging and bringing products to market. So the influx of new products in this system, if you will, is quite rapid. It also means there's a lot of products that aren't that great that you have to try to find out whether you like them or not. And we do, when we get samples of things, we taste it and decide, would we be proud to sell this before we put it out there? Because it's there's just a lot of, some things you just don't need in your life. Like, I don't know, cassava yogurt. I don't think it exists, but I don't need that. So, try not to
So it doesn't really
denigrate
matter if
any
it doesn't
actual
exist or not,
product. But you know
yes.
what I'm saying, that there's just a lot of a lot of activity around any trend. And so trying to suss out what is good to eat is still a challenge.
And you turn the corner and you get to the
You're immediately confronted with meat. From the vegans, you go to the meat. It's so the first part that's not shown here is like cold cuts and blocks of cheese and some fresh pastas. And then this case is meat and seafood. We have salmon from Seawell, and that's pretty much the only fresh seafood that we've been able to turn fast enough to be really excited about. So there's a lot of frozen seafood, but mostly we sell a lot of meat and chicken out of this case. And some of it's organic, some of it's grass-fed, and some of it is conventional but no hormones, and still a natural line but not certified organic.
And I kind of recall that it was a decision that was made very early on in Fiddleheads that meat would be one of the things that sold, because some co-ops don't.
I believe that's the case. I know that in the
Willimantic was like that when they started out, no meat.
Yes, and I think that also there were farmers involved in the winter. When Fiddlehead started, it was a winter farmers market.
That's true.
And I'm not sure, I know that we had a relationship with Firefly selling in the store for a while. I'm not sure if that was at the very beginning. But so if you have, Connecticut is a good place to raise animals. It's a steady part of the agriculture in the Northeast to do animal husbandry. So if you're about supporting local farmers, it makes sense that you could try to sell local meat. We have very limited local meat, and it's in the freezer case, but we do try to source good quality.
Well, it's funny because meat does seem increasingly to be maybe part of the trend towards more regenerative agricultural products, no-till farming and, variety of things. So, I don't know, life can get so complex. It can be really hard to figure out how to have the best, least impact.
Yes.
So your cheese and specialty, as long as I remember, you've had, Fiddleheads has had a really great variety.
That's good. I only known it for 4 years, but I think it's growing. We will try new things and see. It's really about, do we have enough customers who want this thing before it isn't as high quality as it should be? And so with fresh cheeses, sometimes we can't sell enough of the whole case to make it worth keeping on the shelf all the time. We have a number of local cheeses. We've got like Cato, Corner, and Mystic cheese. So we have Baldwin Brook cheese now. There's a variety from all across the nation and across Europe. So like there's cheese from all over, but we try to give a really good assortment and things that are, we have a good quality parm that you can't always find at the supermarket. We have it's Fontanelle. It's not quite Fontina. It's the American version of Fontina, which is a protected name, so we can't use the word Fontina. But we have
faux Fontina.
Yes, it's actually quite good, but it is not allowed to be called Fontina. And Gruyere, so just things that you need for cooking, and we really encourage experimenting and trying new things. We've brought in some olives that we're trying to do more bulk pack of olives because you can get really good quality things that way. That across the top there's some salmon and charcuterie and things. So we keep trying to bring in, trying out new things.
Well, our time is getting short, so we're going to kind of fly through some of this rest of this store.
Some of it doesn't have that much to talk about. This is dairy.
Yes, I'm told 5 minutes.
Okay.
So
I'll just say shout out to Raw Milk from Baldwin Brook and Brush Hill, but we have a pretty good variety of yogurts and local eggs. And this is freezer. It's a lot of frozen items, and plant-based meats have really grown. So that's Beyond Burger. Sorry, I shouldn't be naming names, but plant-based burgers and cutlets and things are growing. But we have a pretty good assortment of frozen foods, and that's more frozen. Yep.
And
this is our kitchen. So this is a project that we just started in the last year that we're cooking from scratch and making a whole host of different things. So there's salads, homemade soups. That's across on the right. The top line is homemade soups, and we're doing those in a glass jar program. So there's a $1 deposit on the jar, which you can then bring back to get the deposit, or just, it's a mason jar so you can use it at home. And we're trying to get to the point where we can do some of the salads in a smaller format, 88-ounce jar, because we really are, not excited about promoting the use of plastics. But we're trying to figure out whether customers are still going to buy convenience in glass. But so this is a shot of our grab-and-go case. And this is just an example of an energy bowl. It's got like falafel and goat cheese and beet couscous and chickpeas on a bed of greens with a dressing, and then some soups that you can see the colors.
Well, it seems like the to-go part is something that's really grown over the last couple years.
Yeah, just this last year it's really grown, and now we're launching, we've always had soups, but now we're trying hot entrees Monday through Friday from like 11 to 6. And we're going to try and expand that to have a couple different pans so there's more variety. And again, it's just making sure that we're able to move enough of it to make it, we can't offer 3 things if nobody's buying them, but we're going to keep trying to grow that, because just having another variety of quality food and special dietary needs too. Like some things are vegetarian, some things are gluten-free. So we'd like to offer more.
Here's the kitchen.
That's actual shots of the kitchen where all the food is made, that's right.
And now we'll just fly through grocery.
Yeah.
Really.
We have a wide assortment of grocery, a lot of
Yeah.
certified organic, a lot of natural, and local honey. I will say that the little green signs on the shelf tag, or when the shelf tags are green, that means it's a local product.
So whatever it is, whatever department you're in,
Yes,
green means
the
local.
green is local. And this is bulk. Bulk, we pride ourselves on having a huge array of all kinds of cereals, nuts, fruit, coffee. You can go to the next slide if you want. This is bulk herbs and teas, and so we really do encourage experimenting your kitchen. And the nice thing about bulk herbs and spices, you can buy as little or as much as you want. We have very normal like basil and oregano, but we have smoked paprika, and we have za'atar spice from the Middle East, and we have cheddar cheese powder that you can sprinkle on your popcorn. So a lot of things.
I'm just scrolling through this
Yes,
fast
that's fine.
because we have to we're losing our laptop for the last
Oh, I see.
couple minutes.
Well, so
we'll talk about the neighborly nickels, but yeah, if
fine.
you want to take the laptop, we'll just talk for 5.
Sure.
Or not 5, for 2 or 1. Yeah, so if people want to get involved with Fiddleheads, sorry about the last 10 slides being like
That's all right.
on speed.
They have to go to the grocery store to see the rest of the store.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah, which is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly would love to have people come and see the store in person. And like I said, there's classes and workshops that we're offering, and those are now featured on our website as well as Facebook. I think that if people want to get involved, I mean, depending on how involved they want to get, if they're interested in running for the board, they have to be a shareholder. So if they're already a shareholder, there's a process for applying, and some information on our website about that as well. If you're interested in just asking for a product, seeing if we can get something in the store, there's a book that's in that little member corner that we have that is a product request book, so that people can say, hey, this is a great cracker, I really wish you have it, and we can look it up and see if we can find it from one of our distributors.
1 minute.
People can be in classes, people can just come and shop, and we'll talk to you and welcome you into the store.
And birthday weekend is a good time to start
Birthday
shopping.
weekend's a great time to
It's
drop into the fun and the
Get
madness.
10% off
15.
everything.
10%
right,
off
that
for the
weekend?
weekend, right? For
Yep.
everything, whether you're an owner or not.
Correct. Everyone gets 10% off Saturday the 15th and Sunday the 16th. And the festivities for the actual party are 10 to 4 on Saturday the 15th.
Is there going to be music?
It's going to
You
be a
didn't
DJ,
mention.
and
But
he's
usually
really
there
great.
is like unpredictable
Yes,
music.
there's music, there's cake, there's singing, there's fun, a proclamation from the city, I think. So we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. A lot of people hooting and hollering that weekend.
So we'll see you at Fiddleheads. Sorry we kind of rushed through the last part
That's
of that.
fine.
But if you haven't shopped at Fiddleheads and you live in the New London area, definitely
missing
go
out.
there. You
Come
are
on
missing
down.
out. Next week is going to be totally different. My guest is going to be Jason Ortiz, and we will be talking about issues that are coming up this legislative session. So we're going from co-ops to state statutes. And So we'll see you then, and we'll see you at Fiddleheads.
We actually updated the co-op statute for the state of
All right,
Connecticut. I
yeah.
wish we'd mentioned that. Next show.
Next show, yeah, there will have to be another time.